Hello, everybody. My name is Danny Shamoon, and this is my presentation. Now, to answer the first question, I actually chose the Scott Van Pelt's video about senior night. Basically, what he does is he goes on Twitter and asks a bunch of the athletes to send him pictures of their prematurely ended seasons when the coronavirus first hit us. So this was a really, really cool challenge that he did, and I thought that was really, really good of him to kind of acknowledge all the student athletes that had their seasons end prematurely without actually getting a proper send off. So the first question is why this is effective. I think this was effective, A, because it was relatable. He made it very, very relatable to everybody. Everybody has kind of been in that situation to have a senior night, to have a send off game, but unfortunately these student athletes didn't have that opportunity because of the pandemic. So he made it very relatable to everybody else. The second thing is he's able to make something very small turned into something a lot bigger than it is. A lot of these kids don't get the national attention or the even sometimes the local attention that they should receive, and to have an opportunity like this to where they can display their senior night all over the world and possibly all over the nation. It's just something super cool of him to do to kind of put them out there like that. The third thing is he creates an understanding and a connection with the fans to make their stories are seen. What I mean by that is he could have gone and pulled just random stories and asked only one person to send them a picture, but no, he didn't do that. He went on Twitter. He asked all his fans to send him in as many stories as they can, and I thought that was super super cool of him because it made it more authentic. Which gets me to my last point, which is it's genuine and sincere. Now, Scott Van Pelt showed amazing empathy on that show because all of those kids didn't get to finish out their seasons like they wanted to. So he was showing them amazing, amazing empathy and sincerity and genuinity. And I think they would really, really appreciate him for that. And then my second question is why it's an example of great sports writing. Now, I think this is a great piece of sports writing because A, it showed creativity. Second thing is it showed empathy. The way it showed creativity is the fact that he was creative enough to not have any sports to cover. Basically, we're in a middle pandemic, so there's not a lot of sports you can really cover. You can't really keep talking about old highlights. At one point, people do get bored. So that showed a lot of creativity, wanting to bring in a different type of audience to kind of show and give a different type of national spotlight to these kids that never got to finish their season. Again, he showed empathy to those kids that never finished out. The third thing is he showed tremendous adaptability. What that means is to me is despite not having any sports around, he was able to adapt and still find different ways to produce content. And I think that's what makes a great writer. He was able to come up with this idea, write it out on his own, get the results, and kind of just put it all together. And then the fourth thing is he showed flexibility. Now, what that means is he was able to stay in the studio during the pandemic when everybody was ordered to go home. He's over here producing content for people when there's no sports going on. So it's kind of like he's sacrificing a lot to just be in that studio set and doing this kind of thing. Now, these are added in my presentation, but I am talking about them before. Thank you. What's going on, everybody? These are the top 10 qualities of a good sports writer. So basically, the first one is credibility. Obviously, that's the biggest one because you cannot be a writer without having good credibility. Quality number two is showing empathy. No matter what you're writing about, you always want to show empathy. No matter if you're writing a story about a player retiring or a player having a bad incident or an accident, you always want to show empathy. The third one is creativity. Kind of like Scott Van Pelt used with this video, you got to always be creative no matter what the situation is, and you always got to fall back on some of the more simple ideas. Number four is impartiality. Impartiality basically means is having the ability to not choose sides, being impartial. I think that's very, very important for writers. Quality number five is flexibility. I think Scott Van Pelt showed amazing flexibility, especially not having any sports on TV. He was able to do something like this. Quality number six is adaptability. Again, this adaptability shows that he was able to create another piece of content for the people despite being no sports. Number 7 is passion. Obviously, if you do not love it, you should not be in it because your heart will not be in it all the way. And the quality number 8 is communication skills. In order to have this, you need listening, speaking, thinking, and nonverbal skills. No matter if you're on camera or you're writing, you need all of those. And number 9 is accuracy and precision. No matter what you're doing, you always want to be accurate and you want to be precise. If you're not those two things, then it's if you're not those two things, then it's very, very hard for people to read your story. And quality number 10 is resourcefulness. Kind of like Scott Van Pelt, he used Twitter to his own resource to kind of get this story and this type of content out there. And I thought that was very, very resourceful of him.